Grand opening, grand closing.
Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers. Your only friend, these YouTube streets, Puerto77. Let's talk two topics today. First one, let's start out with Xbox influencers are seeing Xbox excitement dying down. Most likely, it makes sense, right? When you have a once platform provider that was designed around the consoles, and everybody hyped the consoles, compared it to other consoles in competition with PlayStation, Nintendo, and so on and so on. And now it seems like they're moving away from that to where the console is just seems like to be just a device that they provide, but their overall image is being a publisher. It kind of dies down because you don't see people champion EA versus Ubisoft or Ubisoft versus Capcom or any of that stuff. You know, when you look at a third-party provider, you could appreciate the games. CD Projekt Red, people love them. Capcom, From Software, third-party developer, everybody absolutely loves their games. But they never compare them to first-party platform because that's just not the lane they're in, right? You just appreciate what they do game by game as compared to the entire ecosystem or the entire platform identity that a first party has, like PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox. But right here we have from the Xbox 2 podcast, we got Jez and Round Outdoor talking about how just things don't seem as exciting anymore ever since Microsoft had their official podcast announcing announcing that they've been planning to release 4 games on the PlayStation 5 and games on Nintendo Switch. Along with that, we got more information over time saying that these ports have been in play for a while, at least a year. For example, Sea of Thieves is supposed to release in April, and given how the game is built, chances are you need at least a year, and they've been developing it in secret. Many people thought they were developing Everwild, and no, they were porting games over to other platforms. And keep in mind, these ports started even before the ABK FTC trial. While people, Xbox fans, was assuming that with the acquisition of ABK, you're going to see all these exclusive titles only on Xbox for new titles and stuff like that outside of Call of Duty, they were already porting their own native games, especially a game from Rare, who Rare never made a PlayStation game ever, not while they were under Nintendo ownership, and then when they got bought out by Microsoft, never touched a PlayStation. So to see that and hear that while this was going on, it just changes the face of Xbox. And many Xbox fans who believed in the platform, not just simply as a game publisher, but the overall platform holder, they expected they would get something in reward, for the years and years of just Xbox underperforming overall as a platform provider. But now with Microsoft putting games on PlayStation, putting even more games on PlayStation, it just seems like it's dying down. But we'll see let's hear what they got to say.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. They do need to generate some more excitement about the brand again. I do think that Microsoft has spread themselves very thin at the moment, and they're trying to do a lot with regards to like the reorg they've done, integrating Activision Blizzard and all this kind of stuff. And, and you've got people like Sarah Bond settling into a new role, and she's only been in the job very recently, and there's initiatives been put in place that maybe won't see fruition for like a year and stuff. There's been a lot of disruption to Xbox over the last couple of years.
I do completely agree with that. And I would say even before the ABK deal, I say it started last gen. When last gen biggest complaint for Xbox was the first party games, right? And the ability to grab third party titles, time deals. How come overall the strategy that made Xbox 360 so successful, which was provide first party games, grab some of the biggest third party games out there, get exclusive content, just the whole publishing power of Xbox has been completely diminished. They just was not good at all overall. It was not good. From their first party output to their ability to gain some of the biggest third party, they just did not do a good job. And they focused on things that didn't actually resolve that. They didn't put effort into resolving the issues as a publisher. They put their energies in creating Game Pass, and they put their efforts trying to make the ecosystem include PC, which is not beneficial to Xbox console gamers, and they didn't put any energy into that. And then on top of that, they added even more with day and date games on Game Pass. And then they said, hey, we're going to do day and date game on PC and putting games on Steam. Oh, and we're going to double down on cloud, which was something that's really like, man, that's like, all right, I get cloud as a, as a project. You're going to invest in that. But that should have never been at the forefront. Like, it shouldn't have been one of the main focuses of the Xbox brand, especially advertising to the people that you don't need to buy the console. That was just kind of asinine. It's just so counterintuitive to trying to sell more consoles, right? Is it like PlayStation? They're investing in cloud. Hell, now they even got 4K streaming in the cloud. So they are clearly investing, but they don't put it at the forefront, and they most definitely don't tell you no need to buy a PlayStation 5 simply because they're developing cloud. That's just so counterintuitive. So I think Microsoft did bite a lot of things that they could chew, and most of the stuff that they added to their plate didn't really help the console. If anything, it just made things worse in terms of the excitement over the console.
Partially because of the ABK stuff, but they're kind of like, it's almost like they're building a new company now. They've gone from being like a well-funded startup to being like legit mega publisher overnight, pretty much. And fleshing out what that looks like is going to take time, I think. But I feel like we've been waiting so long for all this shit to pan out.
Well, yeah, and that
But
has to do with
hopefully
like
the reward is consistency.
kind of like the excitement right now around Xbox. A lot of people, like Clover, mentioned that they're not really seeing anything. I know the February podcast kind of deflated a lot of the excitement around Xbox for some people.
It absolutely did, because that podcast didn't signal reinforcement that they're all about the console, right? They didn't signal, hey, we're going to give you the biggest games, the biggest exclusives. We're going to double down on this console. And with ABK, we now can provide even more games. You're going to be even more proud or more hyped. All right. If you're a current Xbox owner, you're going to be more proud, more hyped to be an Xbox owner. And if you're not an Xbox owner, you're going to want to get an Xbox, right? They didn't do that. They talked about just putting more content away from the Xbox console, right? That podcast, to be honest, had more to do for people that didn't own an Xbox than it did than the people who do. Like, the people who didn't own an Xbox got more out of it, right? The people who own Switch and PlayStation got more out of that podcast than the actual console owners. So that deflated our stuff, because that's really nothing there really provided more for the Xbox console owner. Like, they might as well not have even watched the podcast, right? It just signaled more that if you're not on Xbox, you're going to get content. Xbox coming to you in some form of fashion, right? Man Author hit it right, saying it's been pretty quiet because, and Jez is right, they're rechanging their identity, and it's going to take a little bit of time. The strategy, the marketing, it's going to include more Nintendo and PlayStation, right? So more marketing for their games and stuff, it's going to include. How they're going to handle it, day and date games on these platforms, or, first on Xbox and Game Pass platforms and then on PlayStation, they all have to figure that out, and they need time to do that. But the marketing of Xbox console exclusives is pretty much not a thing, right? They're going to move away from that. And they're just, right now they're figuring out how to market Xbox as a massive publisher in the gaming industry, where all devices will benefit from the work Xbox is doing. And that's going to take time to set that message up.
And I think right now you're in that situation where you have the podcast, and some people, there are a lot of people that didn't like that, or like, bringing games on our platforms. But then Xbox really didn't have anything else right after. And you see kind of like that SpongeBob meme, Squidward's up in the tower, right? And he sees like SpongeBob and Patrick playing, and you see Helldivers 2, you see Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you see Rise of the Ronin, right? You see a Stellar Blade. And it's like, yeah, sure, Xbox fans, there's plenty of third-party games to play and stuff, but like nothing specifically from Microsoft themselves until May with Hellblade 2. So I could definitely, yeah, like the excitement for the Xbox, like right now, probably low because there's nothing really going on. You know, Hellblade 2 comes out. I'm sure you'll see people get really excited leading up to it. Or, you know, the summer showcase where they drop some games and stuff. But like, yeah, right now, it really does seem like the excitement is at least lessened. And it's partially due because of what's happening now. And also because of like other, I don't know, it's kind of like people get jealous of like other people's toys, essentially, right? I mean, I love my 50 hours with Banishers.
So it does have a point. You know, the excitement of Xbox in the future, in the long term, is going to be similar to when an EA game comes out. For example, the 1943 Marvel game came out with Captain America and Black Panther. It looks great. You know, people are excited. They're interested. And it's just the game. They're interested, right? There's no comparison of, you know, 1943 versus Spider-Man or Arkham Asylum or platform versus platform, EA versus, I think it's EA or is it Ubisoft? You know, I think it's Ubisoft, whoever the developer. There's no contention, right? If let's say 1943 would have been an Xbox first party game, then there will be a battle of Spider-Man versus 1943, and you'll have that platform to platform holder competition. But you don't have that with a multiplayer, obviously, right? Because it's going to be on PlayStation, it's going to be on PC, it's going to be on Xbox. Xbox is heading into that direction. That when you see an Xbox first party, it's not going to have that, this is better than PlayStation, because chances are the game's going to end up on PlayStation anyway, right? What you're watching is just a time exclusive title that's probably on Game Pass, and depending if with further investments, if Microsoft decides to be able to support PlayStation, Nintendo with day-and-date games, that's another question. Then that's completely will write off any conversation, right? But it's just not the same, you know? It would be like the equivalent of a third-party game coming out on PlayStation and Xbox first. Sure, you'll have some trolls, you know, like Baldur's Gate, right? Baldur's Gate's a good example. You have people trolling, but in reality, the conversation doesn't matter because people knew the game was coming on Xbox. It was just certain issues and certain things that had to get resolved, and it did get resolved. But in the end, it's like, yeah, it's a multi-plat. It's going to be everywhere. So there's not really any big contention other than, you know, a small community of people, of trolls who talk shit. But the bigger landscape where, you know, the battle of Halo versus, you know, Gears of War versus Uncharted, you know, where everyone participates, where decisions are made on what platform to get, the big scale decisions between the two platforms, right? That's going to die because in the end, most people are going to be like, I'm not worried about that. The game's going to go on PlayStation anyway. And that's just where the conversation, the excitement is going to end. From that perspective,
you know, I'm just excited about games in general. So I'm super pumped for Hellblade, but yeah, it's 2 months away. It's still kind of far. And everybody's excitement level is not going to be the same. So, and Xbox has sort of taken a back seat, Jez. I don't know if you would agree with that. Ever since the podcast, normally they're out there, there's some things going on, but they've really kind of taken a back seat and haven't been out there as much. And maybe that's partially by design. But, you know, maybe that'll change in a little bit, right?
I absolutely think it is by design because they have to, you can't expect them to do the old thing, the old strategy that now includes PlayStation, Nintendo. They formulate a new strategy. Marketing is going to have to talk different. The advertisements have to talk different. When they talk to these big Xbox influencers, they're now going to... You already seen how the new Xbox influencers change their vision now, right? You see Gamertag Radio. You see how Paris now changes tune. I forgot the other guy's name. But little by little, everybody's changing their tune, right? Because... things are different. The messaging is going to be different. It's no longer going to be a messaging of Xbox versus PlayStation because PlayStation will be part of Microsoft's vision for revenue and success, right? So they want the PlayStation audience, right? They don't want the PlayStation audience to think that there's a competitive battle between the two. No, Microsoft wants to cater to the PlayStation fan base as well, and Nintendo. They want those guys. They want their money, buy games. You know, for example, with the developers, Rare was talking about Sea of Thieves. Season 11, right, was being built with PlayStation in mind. So this whole time, you know, the next season of season 10 or season 11, it was already being planned with PlayStation. So that's Microsoft mindset. Their future is heavily intertwined with PlayStation as part of their overarching plan to be successful in gaming. So the messaging's got to change. You can't, you know, want the fan base to be part of your financial strategy, your business strategy to be success, while at the same time feeling they're left out. So the message is going to change. How they do things is going to change. And yeah, right now they're quiet because that messaging and that strategy is not ready. But once it's ready, you're going to hear them talk, but it's going to be completely different. You know, Xbox console gamers, if you chose Xbox as your brand, you know, you're going to feel left out unless you converted to a Game Pass gamer. If you converted to a Game Pass gamer, then none of this is oblivious. Because then at that point, it doesn't matter what Microsoft does with PlayStation. You're on Xbox because of Game Pass. Because you like the day and date. You don't buy games anymore. You just pay your $15 a month, and then that's it. That's all you care about. You pay your $15. You download whatever you want to download. You play whatever you want to play. And end the discussion. Nothing else. Who cares what's on PlayStation? Who cares on Nintendo? Doesn't impact you. Just as long as you get the games... For if you're $15 a month, that's all that matters. So you guys are all right. But those of you that wanted the whole complete platform with exclusives, be competitive with PlayStation games, you know, be recognized as having some of the best games in the industry, yeah, that's going to be tough for you guys. That's going to be real tough. The next thing I want to talk about is this, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. Right now, apparently, this is just Zuby Tech. But apparently... Sony Bend Studios, the developers of Days Gone, seems like their next project might be a full life service title because they're looking for hands-on game development experience and leadership roles shipping AAA live service games. This is a poster for you know, looking for people who are experienced in that. So they're trying to hire. Now, it could be their next game or it could be a separate project, right? They could be working on two projects, or this could be the initial phase of a new project, which could be a AAA live service games. But if you're hiring for leadership, right? Now we're just talking, you know, small fry guy. If you want leadership and you're hiring for it in a role to ship, to properly launch AAA live service games, they're interested in a live service game. Now, whether it's their next game or another project, I don't know, right? Zuby Tech makes the assumption that it looks like Sony Bend's next game is a full live service title. It may not be the next game. It could be another project they're ready to work on. But with Sony Bend hiring or looking to hire, they're gonna try at least their shot at AAA live service games, which I'm just, you know, whatever, you know, at this point I'm just whatever. It's on Sony. It's on them to ensure that PlayStation maintains the high quality brand that they establish. If they screw it up, then they screw it up. That's on them. There's nothing at this point. It is what it is, right? If they want to chase the money, they want to chase the recurring revenue, right? They want to chase the rabbit, then go ahead, chase, you know. Completely ignore what put PlayStation on the map. You know, completely ignore what helped them dominate during the PS4 era. Sure, why not? You know, just completely rewrite a whole new playbook to appease investors. It is a business, right? It is what it is. We'll see how it is, right? But at this point, this is just a note that's came on that Zuby Tech just noticed. Me personally, I am very weary of live service games. Most of them flop. I'm just not a big fan, you know. When they do hit, they hit big. But when they don't, boy, they don't. And a lot of them don't. That's just how it is, you know. But we'll see how it is. I know some people say, oh, they need to try and experiment. I'm going to be honest. Most AAA games seems like cash grabs or just trying to chase money. I don't see authentic creativity that pushes gaming forward. to me, the genre or this particular, genre of AAA gas, it always seems like it's being made just to sponge money off us, right? I don't know. That's just my view. That's just my opinion. But anyway, you let me know what you think. This is your only friend, YouTube Street Porter Rock 77, and I'll see you guys Tuesday for 60 Friends Don't Like podcast, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Grand opening, grand closing. Grand opening, grand closing.